Hello everyone, my name is Alex Uli. Sorry I couldn't make it to the seminar. I was scheduled to be out of town during the seminar and had to record the presentation. I hope the recording works well, and I hope you find the information in this presentation useful. With that said, I just want to say a little bit about myself before I dive into the material here. Like I said, my name is Alex Uli. I am a new attorney at Bale Stouffer & Graves. I just graduated from law school in May of this year and passed the bar exam in Indiana and was admitted in October. So I haven't been at it all that long, but I have been working with Mac computers for quite a while in a law firm setting. I have been with Bale Stouffer since 2008, primarily as their IT manager. I've also worked as as a legal assistant here. Especially during law school. But I started using Macs in 1993, and my dad was always a Mac guy, and he's an attorney as well, so growing up a lot of times I would go with him to help other attorneys set up their new Mac, and so I gained a lot of experience that way. But like I said, I really didn't start working in a law firm setting until 2008. The Bale Stouffer & Graves has had Macs in the office since 1993. They've had them continuously since then, so the office is fully invested in Macs, and they're have had seen the evolution sort of Macs and the good and the bad that come with them. So I hope I can share a little bit of that experience with you today, and if you're somebody that's already got a Mac and just wants to sort of see what else is out there, see what you might do differently, I hope I can help you. If you're somebody who's got on a PC right now and thinking about switching, I think I'll be able to give you a good idea about what you can expect if you switch to a Mac. I'm not a programmer. I don't have any my undergrad degree was in philosophy. I have no programming experience, just what little I've taught myself. So I don't anticipate this presentation being overly technical. I don't want to dive too deeply into any one particular area. I'm going to stick to a few topics that I think are really important and just sort of give you the highlights in those areas to get you started, so that you can set up a Mac office, a Mac law office, and a secure Mac law office. I hope to leave you with some good resources, and if you have any questions at the end of this presentation, please feel free to contact me. Alright, I'll leave you with my email and my phone number at the end. Alright, before we get into the material here, I want to show a quick video. It's a video somebody showed me several years ago. I thought it was funny, especially coming from somebody who does technical support. But hopefully, after this presentation, if you're already using Macs, you won't have the sorts of problems that you see in this video, or if you are switching to Macs, you won't have these sorts of problems. So anyway, just a quick video I thought you might enjoy.
Ansgar?
Ja. Ja.
Så bra. Okay.
Ja, hei du. Hei du. Ja.
Ja, hva gjelder det?
Ja, det er denne her. Ja, vil du si? Takk. Ja.
Ja?
Ja, så jeg har ikke fått gjort noen ting hele formiddagen, ja.
Nei, jeg beklager til så holdt på å legge opp til et helt nytt system, og da skal alle ha hjelp på en gang, vet du.
Ja.
Så du kommer ikke inn i den, eller?
Nei, den bare ligger der.
Har du forsøkt å åpne den?
Åpne den, altså hvis det hadde vært så enkelt, så hadde jeg jo ikke tilkalt helpdesk, hadde jeg vel?
Nei.
Nei. Vil du ha en kopp varmt vann?
Nei, det skal være fortsatt.
Ja.
Du bare gjør sånn.
Ja.
Da er du i gang.
Ja, så langt kom jeg også.
Ok.
Men så stoppet det opp, og så var jeg redd for at noe av teksten skulle forsvinne, så jeg turte ikke å gå videre.
Åja, ok. Nei, men du skjønner at inni her, så ligger det kanskje flere hundre sider med lagret tekst. Så for å komme videre, så tar du tak i et ark, på den måten her, så blar du over på neste side sånn. Da fortsetter teksten der.
Jeg blar, altså.
Du blar.
Men når jeg skal tilbake da?
Ja, da bare blar du tilbake igjen. Tar tak der. Og så Der, så er du tilbake til den teksten du hadde i stad. Ikke noe
Ok, så den
forandret.
slutter der, og så fortsetter den der, ja. Ok, men når jeg skal avslutte for dagen, hva gjør jeg da?
Da bare slår du sammen permene
Ja,
på den måten der. Sånn. Da er den lukket der, ligger alt lagret inni der.
altså jeg risikerer ikke å miste noe av teksten her nå,
Nei,
altså.
alt ligger lagret inni her nå.
Ja.
Da må du i tilfelle sette fyr på hele greia. Det er kanskje litt sannsynlig.
Ja, ok. Nei, men for det er noe med det at ikke sant, når du har holdt på med skriftruller,
Ja.
så tar det litt grann tid å konvertere til å bla i en bøk. Ja, på TV.
Da er det greit.
Ja, men du, en TV før du går. Jeg må bare gå gjennom en gang til. Altså, jeg åpner sånn,
Ja, riktig.
og så, hva du kalte det?
Blar.
Jeg blar,
Bla videre.
blar frem og tilbake. Og når,
Der ligger det.
ja. Og når jeg er ferdig, så bare lukker jeg den. Flott.
Fint det.
Kjempefint. Nei, men du, vent, ikke sant? Nå er den sånn igjen, nå får jeg ikke åpnet den.
Du er fra feil side. Du må åpne fra andre siden.
Så det er ikke likegyldig, det, altså?
Du åpner fra den siden der. Sånn. Der. Der er den åpen.
Ja vel.
Har du lest manualen, eller?
Manualen?
Det skal følge med som manualen som brukerveiledning. Der, vet du.
Å ja,
I
den,
der
ja.
står alt sammen.
Ja, men ikke sant, der har du samme problemet. Får den ikke opp. Åpnet den.
Ja, det skulle kanskje til.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that. You can see there 2007, so it's quite an old video there, but I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, obviously the guy that called help tech support there was a former Windows user, and no, I'm just kidding. I don't mean to suggest that scrolls are like the Windows machine, and the Mac is like the new system, the book. Okay, but hopefully, if you are switching or you're new to Macs, you don't have the same sort of growing pains that this guy had when he switched to the book from the scroll. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. Like I said, we're going to cover a few different topics. I don't mean to get into any of these into too much depth. Like I said, just sort of hit the highlights and leave you with some good takeaways, some good actionable tips, so to speak. So I'll talk a little bit, I already made a joke about the Mac versus PC thing. I'll talk a little bit about this, but I'm not here to sell the Mac. I think PCs are much better than they used to be. I think there are some good uses for them, but I'm not here to sell them. Chances are, if you're here for this presentation, you are already a Mac user, or you're a PC user who wants to learn more about Macs and is considering switching. So I'm not really here to make a sales pitch. I just want to leave you with some good advice about what you should do if you use Macs in a law office setting. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll cover, you'll see the list, you see the list of other topics we'll cover here. We'll talk about hardware, software, backup, really important, email options, things that I've seen, I've researched this quite a bit, things that I think are really good options. Network security, talk about VPNs, Wi-Fi networks and such. Mobile device management, this is a really tricky issue, especially in a larger firm setting, and something that's neglected a lot of times in the small office setting. Anyway, we'll talk about that just a little bit. We'll talk about case management and file management, and then we'll talk about disposing of old data and machines. Alright, so as far as Mac PC versus PC goes, like I said, I'm not trying to sell the Mac, although I do think that Macs are advantageous in many ways. I think they're just incredibly simple. As an attorney, time is incredibly valuable, and if there's anything that can make our workflow easier without extra mental thought going into just accomplishing a certain task, that saves us lots of time and money and effort. Okay, so I think Macs do a good job at making things simple and at making our workflow seamless. Okay, So I think Macs are good in that way. I think they're very high quality machines. I currently I'm actually recording this presentation on a Mac that is 9 years old. Actually, it'll be 9 years old in March. So, they're very reliable, and I recommend that people replace them every 3 to 5 years. But I put a new hard drive in mine, and it's still ticking. So, very reliable, high quality machines. Security, there's some misconceptions that Macs don't get viruses. They do, but I think generally the Mac system is a little bit more secure. Usability, that kind of goes with simplicity. They're very usable. They have a lot of software included in the operating system that are very useful. Okay, you don't have to buy a lot of third-party software to make a Mac useful. You can see some of the just a few of the software items that I noted here. File Vault, which is an encryption feature baked into the Mac OS. Notes, which is very useful. Pages, Keynote, Numbers, and Text Edit. These are the Mac alternative to Microsoft Word or the Microsoft Office suite. The Calendar app, Safari, Preview, which is the alternative to Adobe Reader. I think, in my experience, Preview is much more smooth, much more user-friendly. Safari, I use Safari primarily. I use Firefox and Chrome as well, but I'd say 90% of my time is spent in Safari because it's efficient. It doesn't drain my battery like Safari or like Chrome does, and it seems to be a little bit more stable than Firefox in some situations. Time Machine, which is the backup solution that that's built into Mac OS. It's for local backups. I use this for local backups. I'll talk about cloud backups later, but Time Machine is a good local backup solution. Maps, photos, iMovie, printer drivers. This is something that, as the tech support guy in the office, I really appreciated it. It made my job a lot easier some days when I installed new printers on computers. Security, already talked about that just a little bit. And then the file system. I think the file system is more intuitive and easier to use. Just the graphical user interface is I think, more intuitive. But part of that's just what you get used to. So anyway, those are some of the advantages to a Mac. I kind of skipped over the cost here. Sometimes they are more upfront, but like I said, if they're simpler to use, easier to use, they streamline your workflow, you're going to make that money back very quickly. And I think they're very reliable. We buy mostly refurbished Mac products here in the office and have had very good luck. We've purchased probably 25 refurbished Mac computers since I've been here, and have had zero issues with any of them. So the new or refurbished Mac products have served us very well. Okay, down here in hardware, like I said, it's generally a good idea to replace a computer every 3 to 5 years. Backblaze is a company that does cloud backups, and they publish statistics about hard drive failure rates. And most hard drives fail in between 3 and 5 years. Mine failed at about 4.5 years, and I replaced it, and it's been fine ever since. I replaced it with a solid state drive, which is an electronic drive that doesn't spin. It's much faster than a traditional magnetic disk that spins. And I've had no issues with my computer since then. But one thing about older computers is that they slow down gradually, so that you don't even notice that they're slowing down. But over the course of 3 or 4 years, it may have slowed down enough to take up 5, 10, 15 extra minutes of your day. And that's valuable time that you could spend, excuse me, I had to reach for a drink here. That's valuable time that you could spend working on a case. So I think it's generally a good idea to update or replace your computer every 3 to 5 years. Even though my computer still works, I intend to replace it here in the next couple of months. Apple does have some financing options for businesses. I don't know if that's something you might be interested in, but if it is, you should check into it. It's not something that they advertise a lot, but it's something that might be useful to you. So if you want to check that out, there's the link there. I'll post this video on YouTube, and it'll be available, I believe, from this seminar. I talked a little bit about SSD versus magnetic hard drives. So SSD is a solid state drive. It's a hard drive that's electronic. There's no spinning magnetic disk. Much more reliable, much faster, saves a lot of headaches. Fusion drives, that's what Apple calls them. These are good alternatives. These are hybrid drives that actually have a magnetic disk as well as an SSD component built in. So the files and programs that you access or applications that you access more frequently are stored on the SSD portion, while the stuff that's more dormant, that you don't use very much, the data that's more stagnant, stays on the magnetic spinning disk. This is nice because the fusion or the hybrid drives are much cheaper than a pure SSD drive. So if you're buying a computer or buying a new hard drive, you might consider one of these hybrid drives. They're a nice compromise between speed, reliability, and cost. Okay. Laptop versus desktop. This is mostly personal preference. I personally like a laptop because of the portability, obviously. The desktops, the iMac, it's going to come with a nice screen, and it's usually going to be a little bit faster and a little more cost effective, or a little cheaper to get more storage in a desktop computer, and storage, hard drive storage. But again, like I said, this is mostly personal preference. I like to use an external monitor with a laptop. I use an anti-glare. It's not a glossy screen. It's an anti-glare screen that I can use in low blue light mode, so that I don't have so much eye strain. I really like to use an external monitor like that with my laptop. One thing you want to consider if you are going to use an external monitor is pixel density. There's a website here, sven.de/DPI, that will help you figure out how many pixels per inch your screen has. So if it's a 1080p monitor that's 24 inches, it will help you make that calculation to see how many dots per inch there are. And there's a sweet spot for dots per inch when you're reading text, especially. So I like a 1080p monitor that's got about 24 inch screen. That seems to be a good compromise in terms of cost and pixel density. The other thing you'll want that's extremely valuable is a good scanner. We have some Brother multifunction machines in the office that are excellent, but if you want a good dedicated scanner, the best one you can get for Mac or PC is the Fujitsu IX500. This is a standalone scanner that I can't tell you how great this scanner is. I've used a few other different scanners that were okay, but every time I've come back to this one, and it's worth every penny. It helps keep paper off my desk. It helps me store files so I don't lose them. It's just been excellent. They're available on Amazon or directly from Fujitsu, but I highly recommend investing in one of these, or multiple if you're in an office setting, if you're not working alone. There's also an Evernote edition. If you are an Evernote user, Fujitsu makes an Evernote edition that has some software that works very well with Evernote. Alright, that's pretty much it for hardware. I just can't stress enough this SSD. I will never go back to using a purely magnetic hard drive. If you have never used a computer with an SSD drive, try it, and you'll never go back. It's so much better than the magnetic spinning hard drive. Alright, software. With software, there's kind of a theme here through this presentation. You don't want to skimp on the hardware, and you don't want to skimp on the software. Ultimately, you might save a few dollars here or there, but it's going to cause you more headaches in the end. And one of the things you can do to avoid those headaches is avoid using personal licenses for business. Okay, when you buy Microsoft Office, if you're going to use Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and Excel, buy the business edition. It saves some headaches down the road. All right. When you update software, don't adopt early. Okay, there's almost inevitably there's going to be some issues with the software. If Apple came out with when they came out with 10.11, I didn't update until it was 10.11.1, and same with 10.12. Okay, so wait until at least they've come up with one update after the new OS or the new application, if it's application software like Microsoft Office. Okay, don't use free software for important things. A lot of times free software doesn't have the full feature set that you need. There are some free alternatives to Microsoft Office. The applications that are built into the Mac OS are pretty good. I use them quite a bit, but don't use something like LibreOffice or OpenOffice.org. Those applications are good for personal use or limited use, but not really the best for professional document production. Okay, so don't skimp on those items. Don't use Apple Messages for firm communications. Okay, this has come up in our office a few times. Somebody has mistakenly sent a message to somebody in the office that they meant to send to their wife or their son or daughter. Or it's just not a good idea to intermingle your personal with your work applications. So even though I use Apple Messages all the time, I really like the application. I try to avoid, I can't say I always do, but I try to avoid using it for work. There's always some new software coming out, somebody trying to sell you something, but there are a few good pieces of software that I can say have been good investments for our office and for me personally. Evernote is an excellent file management system. It's a good way to stay on task. It's a good way to make sure everybody in your office is in the same boat or on the same page. They have a team edition so that you can see a lot of the same things that everybody else in your office is seeing, so that you can stay organized as an office. There are some good online case management systems. The only two that I have personal experience with are Rocket Matter and Clio. It's difficult for me to choose between these two. I used Rocket Matter here in the office. I used Clio while I was in law school as part of a clinic up there, and both are excellent and have very comparable feature sets, but they are not cheap, but they help streamline your case management, your client intake, case notes, billing, accounting. Okay, these programs incorporate a whole lot of different aspects of your practice and bring it all together. Okay, neither one is a perfect solution, but these two in particular do a better job than any other application or service that I have encountered. Okay, there are some other options that I have heard are very good. Practice Panther is one. My Case is one, and there are a couple others that I'm blanking on at the moment. But Rocket Matter and Clio are very good. It's called SaaS, Software as a Service, and I just can't recommend these enough in terms of your ability to bill your time, to keep track of your cases, to intake client information, and to keep track of all your accounting and billing. It just makes everything seamless in your practice, or as seamless as possible. There are a few other programs out there that I know a lot of people use, like Slack or Asana, that appear to be very good team applications. I don't have much experience with these, but it's something you might consider. They're not Mac specific, neither is Rocket Matter, Clio, or Evernote for that matter, which is what's great about technology today. I mean, it used to be that if you were a Mac user or a PC user, you sort of had to do work a certain way. But now with the internet, you can basically be platform agnostic, okay, for the most part. And these pieces of software help you do that. One that I really like, piece of software that's web-based, is Todoist. It's a task management system. It's basically a very complex, or not complex I'd say, but very feature-rich to-do list. You can share team tasks, you can assign tasks to other people, you can attach documents to a task, you can comment on tasks. It's just a very useful and task-oriented software that helps keep you on track. It tells you when you're overdue. It sends you email reminders. It's very, very good. I can't recommend this one enough. There are a few other to-do programs out there that are also very good. I think Microsoft they bought a program called Wunderlist, and they're developing their own to-do list. I think it's out, but it's kind of in its early stages. And then there's one called Remember the Milk that's also very good. But ultimately I chose Todoist over Remember the Milk. This personal preference, so they're both very good. With updates, be sure to install security updates. I already talked about waiting to install new software in terms of like operating systems, especially. You want to wait until there's at least one additional iteration after the new operating system is released. I mentioned this just briefly earlier. Macs do get viruses. Okay, that's a misconception that still persists to today. I've never seen one on a computer in our office. I've seen some browser malware pop up that you could fix with just a safe boot of the computer, but Macs can get viruses, okay, and it's a good idea to install some sort of antivirus software. I was on the phone with Apple support several years ago, and they recommended that I install Malwarebytes, and I have been happy with this software. It seems to be like a good piece of software, but I also like the software from AVG and also Avast. I don't have that listed here, but Avast has some good options as well. Now it seems funny, I'm giving a presentation about using a Mac, and I'm going to suggest that people use Office 365. I think Microsoft has come a long way and done a much better job with Microsoft Office, and their new offering of Office 365 is quite good. It's got if you use Office 365, it's got a lot of features built in that's hard to find in from any other provider, from any one other provider. You can use 4 or 5 different other providers, service providers, to get all the same features, but Microsoft does a good job of bringing it all together. They have OneDrive, which is like Dropbox or Box for file storage, online file storage. You can have your email through Microsoft Calendar. Okay, they have Microsoft Teams, which is kind of like Slack. It's a collaborative piece of software for groups or teams, and all this is integrated together. It's a nice software suite. So, and it's at a reasonable price. So I highly recommend looking into Office 365. I talked about some of the software that's built into Mac OS already. File Vault is important feature that most people don't even know about. Okay, it's the feature in the Mac operating system that encrypts the hard drive on the computer. So if somebody steals your laptop, they won't know your password to log in and see all your data, but they could take apart your computer, take out the hard drive, plug that hard drive into their computer, and see all of the data on it. And one way to prevent this is to enable File Vault. File Vault sets a complex encryption key so that if somebody tried to take out your hard drive, plug it into their computer, and see the data on that computer, they would just see a jumbled mess without knowing that encryption key set by File Vault. So if you've already got a Mac, or you're thinking about getting one, be sure that you enable this feature and that you keep that encryption key saved somewhere in a secure location. Don't put it on a sticky note. Okay, I know a lot of people in our office that like to use sticky notes to write down their passwords. Okay, but it kind of defeats the purpose of the password. And then all these other pieces of software that I talked about that are very useful, that are baked into the Mac operating system. Okay. Occasionally, if you're using a Mac, you may have to use a PC for some reason. We have one PC in the office that we have in case we need it. Occasionally we get some surveillance video or some security camera footage that is taped on a system that only plays with software for a PC. Alright, so we can play that on the PC that we have, or we can play it on one of a few machines in our office that has virtual software. Okay, we use Parallels. It's a piece of software that allows us to run Windows alongside our Mac software, or on our Mac rather. Okay, Macs have a feature called Boot Camp, so that you don't have to have the additional piece of software, but you actually have to boot the machine as a Windows machine. Okay, you can't run it at the same time side by side. That's the nice thing about Parallels. It used to be the case that Parallels a lot of times still wouldn't work with the Windows software that we needed it to work with, but it's very, very good now, and it's been a long time since Parallels didn't do what we needed it to do. And actually, before I leave this section, I want to show you where you can find File Vault. This is my desktop on my computer. If you go to Applications or System Preferences, you can find Applications in your System folder here. If you go to, I'll show you, if you open a Finder window and you go to Applications, go to Utilities, and then go to, oh, sorry, it's not utilities. It's just right here in the open in the applications folder, system preferences. Go to system preferences. The file vault feature is going to be up here in security and privacy. So if you go to security and privacy and system preferences, and you go to file vault, if you don't already have it enabled, it'll say turn on file vault or turn file vault on. Okay, and you'll have the option to set an encryption key or what they call a recovery key. You can see I already have that set, but that will, depending on how much data you have on your computer, will probably take a couple of hours, but it encrypts the data in the background while you're using the computer, so it's not something that makes your computer unusable. But once it's encrypted, that makes it very difficult for somebody to steal your computer, take out your hard drive, and steal your data. So it's very easy to turn on. There's really no reason not to turn it on, except that you could lose your recovery key or your password. But I highly recommend turning on File Vault. Okay. Now we'll talk a little bit about backups. Okay, it's important when you make backups that you have at least two sets. You want some redundancy. Preferably, you should have a local backup and then also an offsite backup or a cloud backup. Time Machine is a great feature. I use it. In fact, I think it's running right now. It is. This is the Time Machine button up here on the Mac. You can see it's backing up 50, almost 51 of 74 gigabytes right now. So it's backing up to an external hard drive. That's this hard drive right here, and it keeps, you won't see any of my data here, but it keeps backups in sequential order. So I can go back, well, this particular hard drive only goes back till the first of this month, but I have another one that goes back a couple of years. It got full, so I got a new one. You don't have to do that. When the hard drive gets full, Time Machine is set to erase the oldest to back up, to keep backing up. All right, but I didn't want to do that, so I got an additional hard drive. So that's Time Machine. Time Machine settings again are in System Preferences. You can set to back up to multiple hard drives. I do that, but it's an invaluable feature that I use quite a bit. Okay, so there you go. You can set up Time Machine there. It's very easy to turn on and off, to add or remove backup disks. It's a very nice feature built into the Mac OS. Okay, so that's probably the best local backup solution. You can also use a program called Super Duper. It makes a clone of your hard drive so that you could actually boot your computer from the external hard drive. You can't do that with Time Machine, but you can with a Super Duper backup. I've been using Super Duper since 2008. So Super Duper, you can see that here in my applications folder. It's a great program and makes a clone of your hard drive. One thing I wanted to mention with Time Machine is be sure to encrypt your Time Machine backup, that external hard drive. When you turn on Time Machine, it will give you the option to encrypt your external hard drive. Like File Vault, it prevents people from stealing your external hard drive, okay, and taking the hard drive and stealing your data. So make sure you encrypt that Time Machine backup. So that's local backups. Time Machine and Super Duper are probably your best options. There are some others, but those are my favorite. What I've found to be the best. As far as offsite backups or cloud backups, I've tried quite a few different services. You can do just a time machine backup and keep it somewhere else, in a different building, somewhere secure. I do that in addition to a cloud backup. So I have a time machine backup at work, I have a time machine backup somewhere that I keep somewhere else, and then I also have a cloud backup. So I have 3 backups that I keep. Now, for a cloud backup, my favorite services are Backblaze and CrashPlan. Now, CrashPlan used to have an individual backup option. Now the only one that they have is CrashPlan for Business. Okay, but I would suggest going with this service anyway, because one thing that CrashPlan for Business has that the individual CrashPlan did not have, and Backblaze does not have, at least not yet, is it keeps deleted files. It keeps versions of old files. So if I delete a file today and it's been backed up to CrashPlan, it will be on CrashPlan forever. Okay, until you delete it. You can go into CrashPlan and delete it permanently if you want, but you have to do it manually. Backblaze, on the other hand, only keeps deleted files for 30 days. After 30 days, they delete the file that's been deleted from your computer. Okay. I've used both of these services. Both are very reliable, very easy to use. Backblaze is a little simpler. Both have similar features. The main distinguishing feature is this archiving of deleted files or file versions in CrashPlan for Business. I'll show you. I'll pull up the website here for CrashPlan. You can see they have a comparison chart here, and this is the feature that I thought was important, especially for business. Not so much for personal use, but for business, I think this is a really important feature. Keep deleted files forever. You can see that here. It keeps multiple file versions. It's encrypted. It's relatively cost effective. I think it's $120 for a year of CrashPlan for small business. So it's very cost effective, very easy to use, very reliable. And the nice thing about it is, if your computer crashes, if your hard drive quits, you can request CrashPlan or Backblaze to send you a new hard drive in the mail, and they'll send you a hard drive with all of your data on it in the mail. You can restore it online, depending on how fast your internet is. That could take a while, but they will give you a hard drive with all your data on it. They'll overnight it in the mail. Very valuable. Another option that's pretty well known is Carbonite. It's a little more expensive, doesn't have the features I think that CrashPlan and Backblaze have. I think it's a good service, but I prefer CrashPlan and Backblaze. One thing that's nice about I know about Backblaze and CrashPlan, I'm not sure about Carbonite, is you have different encryption options. Okay, by default, you can see this is CrashPlan standards. By default, CrashPlan uses an encryption key that is generated by Code 42 by CrashPlan and stored on their servers. Okay, so that's relatively secure. Okay, but not the most secure option. The next option is an archive key password. This is a key that's generated by the CrashPlan app on your computer, and it's secured with a secondary password. And this secondary password is stored on Code 42 servers. Okay, so it's a little bit of a hybrid between standard encryption and then this third option, the custom key. The custom key is an encryption key generated on your computer that only you keep. Okay? This is the most secure option. The problem is it's entirely up to you to remember that encryption key. Okay? So it's by far the most secure. If you lose the password, CrashPlan cannot help you. Okay? But that means you don't have to trust that CrashPlan is not looking at your data, or that CrashPlan is not complicit in some kind of government scheme to look at your data. Okay? It's the most secure option. I just want to note here, Dropbox, iCloud, Google Drive, and OneDrive are excellent services, but they're not truly backups. Okay? Do not rely on these services to keep backups of your data. Okay? They are convenient, they're very fast, they're very useful, but they're not really backups that you should rely on. Okay? It's a good idea to check on your backups periodically. Redundancy, like I said, I have two time machine backups and a cloud backup, and then encrypt all your backups. If you do those things, I can't say you won't lose data, but your odds are very slim. All right. Email. Don't use free or consumer grade email. It looks kind of tacky if you have an email that says ulilaw@gmail.com. Okay, it's very cheap. I think Namecheap charges $8 or $9 a year to buy a custom domain, and then you can get a good email service for not much more than that. Okay, so invest in a custom domain. And don't use the consumer grade email. It's not only does it look tacky, but it's not as secure. You don't have the archiving features that you have with professional email. It's just a lot better to invest a little bit of money that it takes to get a custom domain and professional email. I use Namecheap personally, and we bought the domain for the office here through Namecheap. But we now have it through Google. We have G Suite at the office, and they have the domain name now. But there are several options for domain names. Bluehost is a good option. GoDaddy. Squarespace is a little more of a proprietary system, but you can buy domain names through Squarespace. Weebly, Wix, they're all very comparable services. So you have lots of options in that regard. Like I said, pay for professional business class email. Google G Suite is a good option. It's much like Office 365. It has professional email with archiving. It comes with the calendar integrated that you can use as part of your team calendar. It has Google Drive. It's now called Backup and Sync, which is much like Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive. And then it has a feature called Google Vault, which is very useful for discovery. Okay, if one of the users deletes a bunch of emails or a bunch of files, a lot of that is going to be, or all of that rather, is going to be archived in Google Vault. And that's something that only comes with the business class service, not with a personal free service. Another option is Microsoft Office 365. I prefer, if you're going to go this route, I prefer to do it through Rackspace. Rackspace is a cloud company that is a reseller of Office 365. So you buy Office 365 through Rackspace, and Rackspace provides the support. Rackspace, they call it fanatical support. They have fantastic support. Okay, I don't know if I'd call it fanatical, but it's really good support. and much better than you could get if you bought Office 365 directly through Microsoft. Okay, so and there's, I don't know how it works exactly, but there's little or no upcharge if you buy through Rackspace. So I really highly recommend doing that. Very reputable company, and excellent support. We use them for a number of years, probably 10 years. We used Rackspace, and we actually signed up for Google G Suite through Rackspace, and they were excellent when we transitioned from our old email system to Google, and helping us with that transition. So Rackspace, Office 365 through Rackspace is an excellent option. And you can see that here they have a few different options, ranging from $8 a month to $15 a month per user. But Office 365 has a lot of the same features that Google G Suite has: archiving, calendar, OneDrive, which is their Google Drive or backup and sync alternative, Teams, which is like Slack, and they also have the e-discovery option. Both of these services have IMAP, which is just a protocol that allows you to store your email locally on a computer or hard drive, rather than just in the cloud. I like to have that feature personally. A lot of people don't care, but I think I like to have a copy of my data on a local computer. Alright, network security. Moving right along here. Alright, routers. I've always used Apple routers, but it looks like Apple is probably going to quit making routers. The routers they have out are still very good, and you can buy those if you want. They're nice because they're supported, or their setup is and maintenance are done through Airport Utility, which is the Mac application to manage your routers. It's just a really awesome, seamless software, and very reliable routers. They have a guest networking feature. You can extend the range of the network with multiple Apple routers. They just make it very easy. But given that it looks like they're going to quit making them, there are lots of other options out there, very good options. Linksys, Netgear have some very good options. There are also some of these mesh networks that are quite good. I haven't had much experience with these, but I've heard good things about these mesh networks, so that might be something worth looking into. One of the things that you should definitely do, no matter which router you go with, is set up a guest network. You don't want guests coming into your office and getting on your network and then having access to local computers, local devices, all your files, things like that. Okay, so it's important to segregate your office network from your guest network. Now that doesn't mean you have to have a different internet connection. That just means you segregate it at the router. So the router makes it look like there are two different networks. And that provides a barrier for all the devices and the data on your local network. So definitely set up a guest network. And set a strong password, especially for your office network. The guest network, I make it relatively strong for our office, but not as strong as our main office network. One thing that I've started using recently is a password manager. I use LastPass, but I've used 1Password and Dashlane as well. All three are very good. I can't say that LastPass is better than the other two per se, but it's just the one that I happen to use last, and I've just stayed with that service. LastPass and Dashlane have team solutions. So if you want to use it for your office, you can. For everybody in your office, they work very well. But these password managers are a much better solution than the sticky method, okay, or the notebook method, okay, or the storing it on your desktop, the desktop of your computer. These services store your passwords in a secure online location, and they help you generate secure passwords, so that all you have to do is remember one password to access the secure vault online with all your other passwords in it. And you can set it so that the service prompts you to change your password every so often, or so that if you have two matching passwords, it forces you to change so that you don't have multiple accounts with the same password. That's a really important point, because there was a journalist a few years ago who had the same password for his iCloud account, his Amazon account, his credit card account, and a few other accounts. Okay, and the person that hacked his password hacked all of those accounts. So the hacker hacked the password from one account and used it on all the others. Okay, so it's important to have different passwords for different services. Ideally, you want a different password for every different account that you have, with a strong password for each, especially accounts with sensitive client information. Okay. I already alluded to this, but don't have an open Wi-Fi. If you're out traveling for business, it's a good idea to have a VPN. It's a virtual private network. It creates a private tunnel so that if you're on the internet at Starbucks, and you're using a network that a lot of other people are using there, it creates your own little private tunnel through Starbucks internet. Okay, so a VPN is good for security, and it's also good for privacy, if you're concerned about your privacy. If you use a VPN, your internet service provider only knows that you're using a VPN. They don't know that you're going on Amazon.com or any other various websites that you're browsing on. So a VPN is good for your personal privacy, but it's also good for security and protecting client data. I have tested several different VPNs. I am currently using TunnelBear. It's a nice compromise between speed, ease of use, and cost. There are lots of different factors that go into the quality of a VPN, but there are four that I really like: TunnelBear, ExpressVPN, NordVPN, and IPVanish. I've used all of these, at least a little bit. I've used TunnelBear and ExpressVPN the most. I would say that ExpressVPN is a little bit faster because they have more server locations that they can create a private tunnel for your network activity. But it's not quite as easy to use as TunnelBear, I don't think. Or it's close, but I think TunnelBear is just a little simpler, a little more streamlined. ExpressVPN is a little bit more expensive, but they're all very comparable. One of the nice features of, I believe that all of these have, is that you can implement the VPN on the router rather than on your computer. So all the network traffic that's connecting to your router goes through the VPN. That's nice, especially if you want to set it up in an office setting where you have multiple users. But a VPN is especially, like I mentioned with the Starbucks example, especially useful when you're traveling, or if you're in a hotel. You don't know what kind of security measures that hotel is taking. You don't know who else might be trying to spy on the network activity. a VPN just goes a long way to protecting your network activity, your data, and your client's data. There's a good website that has a comparison of a bunch of different VPNs, that oneprivacysite.net. I'll show you that real quickly if you're interested. It's a little bit complicated, or it can be, but it's the best site I've found to compare VPNs. It's a lot easier to come here to look at this site than it is to go to the website for all the various VPNs. I mean, you can see here he's compiled quite a bit of data. He has the VPN services listed alphabetically, but you can also go up here to the search, and he has a few different data points for comparison. What jurisdiction is the VPN service based out of? Okay, is it one that is complicit with spying? Is it a jurisdiction that is complicit with spying? Okay, is it a do they log your traffic? Do they log DNS requests? Do they log bandwidth usage, IP address, all these things? And you can see red is bad, green is good, yellow is neutral. Okay. And if you type in Tunnel Bear, or just tunnel, for instance, it will bring up Tunnel Bear, and you can see Tunnel Bear gets a knock because it's based in Canada, which is one of the 14 Eyes jurisdictions. Okay, one that's not so good for privacy. The country of Canada is not so good for privacy. Okay, but it gets a lot of greens. Okay, and it's a good service. And this is like I said, the best place I've seen with a comparison of the VPN features. Okay. All right, mobile device management. This is a topic that is usually neglected in a small firm setting. Okay, it's something that's difficult to control. A lot of people bring their iPad or their iPhone or their Android device to work and want to put their work email or Dropbox or whatever other work data on their mobile device. And that presents a lot of security issues for the law firm. Okay, so it's important to have some sort of policy. These are going to be very subjective depending on your office and how you do business, how you handle your data, what your attorneys and other employees do in terms of email and data management. But it's important to have a policy in place and then some sort of tool to remotely wipe the data if the mobile device is lost or stolen. Okay, so don't rely on Apple devices, iPhones and iPads have a built-in feature called Find My iPhone that lets you log into your personal iCloud account and remotely wipe your phone if you lose it, or find it if you lose it. Okay, but as a company, if you've got a firm that with more than one person, it's not a good idea to rely on a personal iCloud account for your mobile device management solution. Okay, so there are a few options out there. Cisco has a good program that for mobile device management, but there's also one called Jamf Now that's a good option. I've only recently started kind of demoing this program, but this program lets you see devices and wipe them remotely. Okay, you can't see all of the data on the device, but you can at least find it, tell where it is, see if it's been compromised, those sorts of things, and then securely erase remotely. I'll show you just a short video here. 2-minute video.
Jamf Now is simplified mobile device management. With Jamf Now, you can set up all of your devices with the apps and settings they need. To automate this process, create one or more blueprints for your devices. Add the apps that your staff needs. You can use Apple's volume purchase program to streamline app purchases. Secure the devices and their data by setting security rules, like passcode requirements or data encryption. Make email setup a breeze. Enter your company's email settings once, and then your staff simply provides their email and password to complete the setup. Secure your Wi-Fi with a strong password that's automatically applied to all of your devices.
I'm not going to make you watch the whole video.
Keep your business secure and your...
You can see you have lots of different options there to manage the security of mobile devices, from installing apps to setting security settings to remotely wiping. You have lots of options there. It's a good service if you've got a team of people that want to put firm data on their mobile device. You can see it's $2 per device per month, so it's a reasonable charge for those features. Alright, now I'm going to speed up a little bit here. I'm going a little slow. Lots to cover here. I'm just going kind of through the highlights here. I talked a little bit about Rocket Matter and Clio already for case management. Like I said, My Case and Practice Panther are also good options. I just have less experience with those. The key here is how seamless these make your case management. These programs make your case management and your billing. Okay, invoicing, collecting payment. These services are just excellent. Okay, they have features like address book, calendar, notes, billing, intake automation, invoicing, and payment processing. Okay, they're really great services. We used to run a program on a local server that was just hard to use. Okay, and you had to worry about backups. People couldn't access it remotely. You couldn't do billing and invoicing through it very easily. You couldn't have client portals so that they could see what was going on with their billing and the case handling. Just there's very little reason to use a local server now. The online solutions are very reliable, very secure, and they help you bill more, collect more, and handle your cases more efficiently. Okay, so I would highly recommend looking into one of these services: Rocket Matter, Clio, My Case, or Practice Panther. All right, we're getting close to the end here. File management. Don't use a single Dropbox account that you share with a bunch of different people. Okay, it causes lots of problems. File syncing problems, security issues, storage issues. Just, it's not a good idea. I tried it with my family at one point, and it worked for a little while, but it just wasn't worth the extra hassle, and you're just way better off going with one of their business solutions, whether it's from Dropbox, Box, Google, or Microsoft, or SpiderOak. SpiderOak is another excellent option if you want extra security. SpiderOak has some additional encryption that you might be interested in. Another thing is to use a consistent file and folder structure. It can be difficult to find documents if you don't have a good file and folder system. I like to use a year, month, day file naming convention that helps put your documents in order so that you can find them easily. So I'll put the year, the month, the day, and then a short description in the file name. And I'll revisit these folders that I'm using currently just to make sure that they're clean and they're up to date. Okay, I got a little example here in this folder. So you can see date, your month, date, description, and then it puts it in order by date. Just makes it much easier to find documents. Okay. All of this we mostly covered already. I talked about the Fujitsu ScanSnap. It's an excellent scanner. Helps keep things saved and organized. If you've got a computer that you're getting rid of or that it's quit, make sure you take out the hard drive, or make sure you try to delete it first if you can while it's still in the computer, and then if you can take it out and destroy it, that's even better. Okay. Best Buy has a service to dispose of old computers. That's what I usually do, but I always take the hard drive out first. Now, I haven't really talked about a whole lot about the Mac versus PC topic. I talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but if you are a PC user and you're hesitant to move to the Mac, it's easier now than it's ever been. Like I said, a lot of the work that we do now is in the cloud, and it's platform agnostic, so it doesn't matter if you're on a PC or a Mac. So making the switch is very, very easy for most things now. So if you're hesitant about it and you want some more information, feel free to reach out to me if you want a few tips or some advice. But there's also some other good resources out there. Global Mac IT is an excellent resource. The Mac Lawyer he's an attorney based. Ben Stevens, he's an attorney based in South Carolina. He has an excellent website. Provides lots of excellent information about using a Mac as an attorney. And then Macs in Law, another excellent resource. These three resources are probably the best three resources I've found about using Macs in a law firm setting. If you're interested, check those out. And then if you have just general questions about some applications, how to use them, things you might do to increase your productivity, Steve Dotto at Dotto Tech, it's a YouTube channel, has some of the best reviews I've seen on application use. So I highly recommend checking that out. And then finally, like I said, I'd leave you with my contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email at auli@bsg-in.com or give me a call, 812-948-5053. All right, I appreciate it. I hope, like I said, I hope this presentation, I know it was a little quick. It was kind of a fast overview of a few different topics, but I hope it gives you some starting points or some good information if you're already using a Mac. And if you are considering jumping to the Mac from the PC, I hope it helps that transition for you. Thank you, and hope you enjoy the rest of the seminar.